Hey, Good Success community, Josh Culler here, host of the Good Success podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. But before we get into this awesome episode of the Good Success podcast, we'd like to take a quick minute and thank our sponsors. And first is Sharper Business Solutions and our good friend Gary Harper. And listen, your business is a personal endeavor that you have poured your blood, sweat, and tears into. Sharper Business Solutions is a full-service solution to help you scale your dream. Sharper Business Solutions implements the Sharper process and other key systems, giving you the confidence and freedom to keep growing and scaling as a company. The Sharper team wants to come alongside you and provide the resources needed for long-term growth and success. Schedule your free consultation today at sharperprocess.com. And let me tell you, these guys are amazing. A lot of our mastermind members have hired Gary and the Sharper team to come and implement EOS and processes and systems into their business, and their scaling is very, very much apparent, and they've grown exponentially. So make sure you guys check them out one more time. That's sharperprocess.com. And we'd like to say a quick thank you to Veterans Path Up and our good friend Ken Lacy. And Veterans Path Up's mission is to provide affordable, stable housing to veterans and veteran families through the use of shared living, single-family residences, and ultimately a path to home ownership. Their emphasis is to provide housing for homeless, working, and disabled veterans, many of whom do not qualify for long-term support from any government agency. Veterans Path Up ascribes to the philosophy of helping those with a hand up as opposed to a hand out. Veterans Path Up provides a critical link to the veteran by bridging the gap to other supportive veteran services. This is accomplished through education and awareness to available support, with the ultimate goal of getting the veteran and family on a path to self-sufficiency. Through the use of private and philanthropic funding, Veterans Path Up acquires, rehabs, and places veterans into the appropriate housing for where they are with respect to their current financial picture. Improving neighborhood housing and showing veterans a path up strengthens the community and strengthens the country while helping those who have protected our freedom. You can visit veteranspathup.org to make a donation or find out how you can help impact our veterans even further. So without further ado, let's take a quick sneak peek of what you'll hear on this episode of the Good Success podcast.
So simply saying, what did you accomplish since the last time we talked, i.e. yesterday? What are you going to accomplish today? And what do you need help with today if you can't accomplish this? It seems basic, but if you do that, wow, what an accountability thing with just three little things. It takes 15 minutes.
Welcome back to the Good Success podcast. I'm your host, Josh Culler, and I got Tom Olson, president of Good Success, sitting right next to me here. What's going on?
What's going on?
There's been like sporadic times where you've been on the podcast and not, but you were on vacation.
I was out of town.
How was vacation?
It was amazing. Took the kids to Disney World, and like my family just loves Disney World.
That's awesome. Very cool. Well, we're glad to have you back on the show here.
I was at a single family office event.
Yeah,
talking to people with generational wealth, $100 million or more is kind of like what makes up a typical family office.
Sure.
And it's really eye-opening to see how people that have money for generations and they have a lot of it, how they think completely different than how most of us think in the day-to-day. Like, I want what's good for me today, right now. Mm-hmm. They think of things in much larger standpoints and generational, hundreds of years, not like just
interesting. 1
day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year. 1 year to them doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't really matter. So
sure.
I think that's the way we ought to think. I mean, in Good Success being a faith-based organization, we ought to think about that even in eternity. You know, that's even just nowhere near what eternity looks like. But I think thinking about things in a lot longer, bigger perspective is always a good thing for us to change our mindset.
Absolutely. Awesome stuff. This is a value bomb right off the bat.
Boom.
There. Boom. All right, so we're going to do today's quote. So the quote for the podcast is, "The only thing you guarantee by not taking action is failure." That's by Scott Carson on episode 132 of the Good Success podcast. If you guys want to learn about notes and investing in notes, we had Scott Carson on. Great episode there. So episode 132 with Scott Carson. All right, so we got a special guest on the show, a good friend of ours personally, and a good friend of our Good Success community, Ken Lacy with Veterans Path Up out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Ken, how you doing, my friend?
Good, guys. How are y'all doing?
We're doing great. So
I'm having a hard time understanding how I'm about 500 miles south of you, and I'm wearing a jacket, and y'all are in t-shirt.
it's because we're used to it, Ken.
It's hot in here.
Yeah, it's hot in here. It's hot in the
studio is hot.
So I love the beard, though. By the way,
I mean,
it's great scruffy.
Is this like a
look for you.
hunting beard or something? What's going on there, Ken?
Yeah, I'm really not much on it. I'm in that itch stage, but Ginger likes it, and so I started growing it about 3 different times, and then I was in different types of meetings where I thought I shouldn't have it, and now I'm in that stretch before New Year's where I'm going to give it a shot, but I would say January 2nd, it's going to be gone.
Nice. That's awesome.
Nice.
So starting the new year with a clean face.
Yeah.
I like it. Awesome
Right.
stuff. So Ken,
If it gets long enough, he could be Santa Claus over Christmas.
He could be. That would be great. Is it white?
It's
It almost
patchy.
looks grayish,
It's kinda patchy.
right?
Yeah, it's I was at the bank today, and the guy there, a good friend of mine, Ben, with a bank that's actually giving Veterans Path Up grants, he said, "Hey, so you're growing a beard?" And he said, "Well, I've had one for years and years and years, and people say it makes me look thoughtful."
That full.
So, but his wife won't let him shave it off either. So that was the first time I've heard that.
Nice.
That's funny.
Do I look
I would-
thoughtful?
You look wise.
Yes.
Looks wise. I like it.
Okay.
Very
Well, that's
cool.
good.
So Ken is a part of our Good Success Mastermind. He's been with us since November of, well, your first meeting was in June of 2017, and then you joined up with us in November of 2017. So we've had you on for a year. We had you renew this past event in November in Miami. So Ken is a part of the Good Success Mastermind. He is the executive director of Veterans Path Up, which Veterans Path Up is their mission statement is to end veteran instability in homes throughout the United States. So incredible stuff that Ken has got going on, and we're going to have him talk about this a little bit. We've actually had him on the podcast before to talk about Veterans Path Up, so we're going to talk about a few different things with Ken specifically and what some updates that are going on with Veterans Path Up, because since we had him on the podcast, a lot's gone down. So we're going to have him talk about that, but before we get into it, if you guys haven't already, make sure you have subscribed to the Good Success Podcast. We're on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, all the Google Play, and all the podcast platforms. So if you are listening to a podcast, just go to the platform, search Good Success. You'll find us there, and make sure you subscribe. And if you haven't left a review, we would appreciate if you did that. I believe Apple Podcasts is the only platform you can leave a review. So make sure you do that. 5 stars would be appreciated. And then let us know what you guys think of these episodes. And then the Good Success Mastermind, which I mentioned Ken has been a part of and is absolutely fantastic. Ken, what do you think of the Mastermind? Good stuff?
I love it. The networking, the talent, the wisdom that comes from all of the people that are part of Good Success is absolutely amazing, and I'm just proud to be part of it.
Sounds good.
And you add to that, Ken. So I
Absolutely.
think Ken has all those, and I'm excited to have him on the podcast today. We can share some of that with you guys.
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate that.
And one thing I actually skipped over is Ken is actually our first Good Success Award winner for the Good Success
Yes.
Awards that we had. He won the charity award. So that was good stuff. So that was the very first time we handed out the awards, which was the second quarter of last year. And he's got it right there.
Oh,
Look at that.
there.
Look at that. Boom. Beautiful. The charity award. So Ken won that from us, and we definitely appreciate him very much. So the Mastermind, the next event is February 4th through 8 in Dallas, Texas at Quest Trust Company's office down there in Dallas. They're kind enough to host us there. So we're excited about that. We got a great group going a full week now, splitting the group into two groups, and we have a middle day, a lot of networking's going down. Me and Tom just hashed out the agenda, a couple panels, a keynote speech possibly, and a couple other things that are going to go down in that middle day.
And some fun. We're going to have some fun.
And some fun.
Yep.
Some awesome fun times, a lot of networking. I think the guys think that networking is just fun, but we're going to actually go do a fun activity.
Yeah, we'll have fun.
So it's going to be great. Very excited about that. And if you guys want to learn more about it, go to goodsuccess.com/mastermind. You'll fill out an application there and then get on a phone call with either myself or Tom. And we do vet you by the core values that we have. I mentioned charity is the one that Ken won the award for, but our core values are charity, growth, stewardship, and community. And we vet every single person that comes into the room by those core values. And we have a great culture that we've built there in the Good Success Mastermind. So one more time, Good Success Mastermind, or goodsuccess.com/mastermind is where you can learn more about that. Without further ado, let's get into this podcast interview with Ken Lacy. I'm very excited about this. Ken is a personal friend of mine. I know a personal friend of Tom as well. I don't even like looking at Ken as like he's one of our customers. No, it's just Ken. He's a friend of ours. He's such a genuine, kind-hearted person. Brings a lot of value to our group and a lot of value to the network that we have put together. So Ken, do us a favor, introduce yourself, talk a little bit about Veterans Path Up, about what you guys are doing there, and just introduce yourself.
So, Ken Lacy, I was a 26-year Navy veteran. I got into the real estate business here in Charlotte about 5 years ago, initially in the note business. And then I started engaging with a number of the veteran organizations in the area, helping veterans get into homes that we were rehabbing, also educating local landlords, local property management companies on, even though they may have bad credit and not necessarily look good on record or on paper, our veterans are a good bet to give a chance to. And so that's how it started before Veterans Path Up was even thought of. And people started to really like going out of their way to put veterans into their rental properties. And then that ultimately turned into Veterans Path Up. I'm skipping a lot of hurdles along the way, but
Sure.
That was the springboard for starting Veterans Path Up in the greater Charlotte area.
Awesome
And
stuff.
then
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Continue.
So then we started Veterans Path Up. A local nonprofit gave us our first house. They donated the first house to us. We took a loan against that house to be able to afford the rehab on it. And the first veteran family that moved into it, the veteran himself was working on the property. We had not even identified him as being the veteran for the property. He just showed up and started working one day. And there were some other veterans that were working on the property too. And it just turned into what I thought would be a great fit. And sure enough, it was. And Wade and his wife, Jennifer, moved into that house. They were renting the house while building their credit, taking financial training classes. A term you guys use is stewardship. So we really push the need to become good stewards of your money, good stewards of your finances. And so that got them on their path to home ownership, to where they got their credit to where they needed to. They were able to get a VA loan and buy the house, and now they're homeowners. And when they started, they were couch surfing and homeless at times as well. So they're 100% self-sufficient. And Jennifer and Wade have been an absolute blessing. I don't know if y'all knew or remembered, but within 5 months of moving into that house, Jennifer became an ordained minister. And that was really cool, because not only that, they created a community garden in the backyard. They rallied the neighborhood around that community garden. They got people involved. Crime stats actually went down in that neighborhood, and I didn't even know that until one of our contacts at the police department made a comment about that in a subsequent video where he was talking about another house that we were at that time rehabbing for a veteran.
That's awesome. Ken, I love watching your face when you talk about helping these veterans, because it doesn't matter what you go through or what heartbreak or what, things don't happen that you really wish could happen quicker, or things don't go as quick as you want, but it all makes it worth it when you actually talk and you understand the stories behind the people that you're helping, and to see your face light up and to have that understanding that that's why you do it. And it's actually leave that positive impact on that community, the people that you're serving, those veterans that you've chosen as your life's purpose. And I just think that I have to commend you. That's an amazing way to live. And I just love watching your face light up when I can see that it be expressed in you.
I appreciate that. You never know who you're going to touch when you're doing a project like this. It was about 6 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks to 6 weeks ago, that the wife of one of the veterans that we helped before even starting Veterans Path Up, they just couldn't get into a house, and they got into a house, and one of the organizations, which is a subgroup of the local RIA, Real Estate Veterans Association here, wanted to pick a veteran family to give a bunch of presents to for Christmas. And the oldest daughter was a freshman in high school at the time, and they did not have a laptop or a computer or anything for the family. And so this young lady, she had to do all her homework at school because she couldn't do anything online back home. So, and she wanted to be a coder as a freshman in high school. She wanted to be I don't even really know what that means, but
it's very intelligent work.
Right. So she's like 14 years old, wants to be a coder, but she really needed a computer or something. So we decided we were going to get her a laptop. I'm not going to go into the wonderful people that came out of the woodwork and helped to make this family's Christmas something that they were not counting on. But it was just about 4 weeks ago that Winifred, her mom, I was talking to, she contacted me out of the blue, and she said in a very long, detailed accounting of their 3 kids and their family and where they were right now, that Jasmine, who's now a senior in high school, if it wasn't for that laptop, she applied for a program that Bank of America was putting on, and there was over 5,000 applicants. It got narrowed down to less than 500, and she was one of 12 that were picked for this engineering program that Bank of America was actually hiring her in-house to come work at corporate. And her mom said, it wouldn't have ever happened without that laptop. And that was 3 years ago. And we just found that out a few weeks ago. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. It's the smallest things like that too. I mean, it's not all about giving away a house like that. Mm-hmm. You just mentioned just a little laptop. So awesome stuff. Appreciate you sharing that story. Lives. It's great stuff.
Yeah.
So let's stay along the lines here with Veterans Path Up's mission. So your mission is to end veteran instability in homes throughout the U.S., which is absolutely incredible. So let's talk about your mission and what steps you're taking to actually make this happen. Maybe talk about the chapters that you got going on. I know you got one in Richmond, a few in Charlotte, and then one coming online in Gary here with us. So let's talk about that a little bit.
So the long-term vision of Veterans Path Up is ultimately to give every veteran who has dreamt of home ownership a pathway to do so. And so then you narrow that down to the mission to help honorably discharged veterans get on their path to home ownership. There's a lot that goes into that. There's just so much that goes into that. And it goes back to financial education, because so many veterans, well, this is everyone, unless you're a good steward of your money, you're not going to save money. You're not going to budget for your expenses. And home ownership is really just a pipe dream. And so the veterans that we have engaged with, regardless of where their credit may be, they have a drive, they have a desire to move their life forward in a positive direction. And the thing about veterans is, at some point, regardless of where they are now, at some point they were part of a team, whether they were in the Air Force, Navy, Marines, Army, Coast Guard, National Guard, they were part of a team. And, life decisions may have put them where they are, but there's one thing about it. When you're part of a team, regardless of where you may be now, the veterans that we've worked with and are wanting to help want to get back up and be 100% self-sufficient. So the veterans that really want to be self-sufficient, they're not looking for the handout. They're really just needing a hand up. Those are the veterans that we really are helping. And there's so many of them. There's so many veterans out there that just need that little bit of a hand up, and they don't want to be in the system. They themselves don't want to be part of the entitlement mentality. And so those are the veterans we really want to help. And
I think that's a key thing, though, is that if you guys don't know Veterans Path Up, they don't give. He even just said it. They don't give handouts. They give a hand up, and I think that's totally awesome. You're teaching them how to fish as opposed to fishing for them. I think that's extremely great model that you got going on. So I love that.
Well, thank you very much.
Awesome
Did I answer your questions, or do you want to?
No, you're good. Absolutely. Love it. So let's talk about the chapters then. So you got a few chapters that have gone online. So maybe talk about, maybe let's go into, talking about the chapters, but also how people that are listening to the podcast might be able to help out with these chapters, or maybe bring a new chapter online, the benefits of it and all that.
So, Tom mentioned about there's a lot of steps that we've taken to get to where we are. And it just doesn't happen overnight to say, hey, I've got a nonprofit, now I'm going to accomplish all these things. So we now have the template for the affiliates. You referred to them as chapters. We really need to say that they are affiliates going forward based on what the IRS wants to see.
Sure.
But Josh Belk, right there in Gary, Indiana, he is an amazing CPA. I'm sure some people on this podcast have heard about Josh. And he has set up and taken care of all the paperwork and the application for not only Gary's affiliate, but also Richmond, Virginia's affiliate. And each state is different on how that works. But Josh can do this in all 50 states. So are there other people that can set these things up? Sure, there's plenty, but Josh can do it in every state. And as far as I'm concerned, he's got the template for moving it forward. So at this moment, Gary and Richmond both have your EINs. You're incorporated in your respective states. That takes a very short period of time. Articles of incorporation, everything that's required of that. From what I know from Josh is you should have your actual 501c3 finished off by the end of January or February. Mm-hmm. And then from a operational perspective, you are working autonomous from us in Charlotte. You're working autonomous from Veterans Path Up USA, but you have the support, the branding, the logo, and the consistency of the mission across all affiliates is the main objective on how we have things structured now.
That's
but
awesome.
Each state is a little bit different in how the affiliates are put together.
I love your vision for this, Ken. I wouldn't step on board with somebody unless I love the vision where you're going with it. And for me, it's just a part of my plan to be able to flip the city of Gary. And I just know that there's got to be veterans here that would be deserving, people that I would want to give a hand up to instead of a hand out. So I actually already have a house picked out. We're just waiting for the finalization of this stuff to transfer the deed into the 501c3, and we'll get rolling on it like as soon as we possibly can right after that. So we actually already did some work to the property just to get utilities turned on. We got a new panel installed in that property, but it's kind of sitting in another company right now. But I already have the first house picked out. I am so excited about this house. It's in Gary, which is kind of a steel city. If people don't know, like steel is one of the big industries in the city of Gary. In the area, steel is just a fraction of all the economics that we have in our area. But Gary's always been kind of known as a steel city. Even the minor league baseball team is called the Railcats, and it's like in steel something
the
stadium or
Steel Yard
something.
is
The steel yard is the stadium. But this house actually has a picket fence, and it's an old steel picket fence, so it's really cool. And I'm really excited about being able to have that as our first house it's on a quarter lot in an area that really does need some help, just kind of like the areas that you described over there in Etna. In the Etna area and Gary. So I'm super excited about getting started with you guys next year. And the only reason why I would have done something like this outside of what I would do, Josh, is because I believe in this man, Ken Lacy, and I believe in the vision and what he's trying to accomplish with really helping the veterans. And I love watching Ken do what he's doing. And I know he goes through some tough times. It's hard sometimes to get people on board with stuff and to get and to kind of finagle and get people to all work together. But he does a great job doing it, and I love working with you, Ken.
Sure.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. And you've seen where the different cities and communities work completely different. So, in Charlotte, we're having a real difficult time finding properties. In Gary, the city has taken back over 6,000 properties. However, as you've learned through this process working with the city, as motivated as they may be to donate houses to us, every house is not necessarily a good candidate.
Right.
And so much of what I have done is to actually help educate the government on how to work better. And
is that possible?
It's well, the thing is, when you talk to individuals within different departments within the government, they're motivated to be part of the solution. But when you then bring them all collectively together, it doesn't work quite that easily. But I feel that Gary is motivated. They're just not there yet. So the fact that you have a house that
don't you worry about houses. Trust me, we can get houses whether they're given to us or not. We don't need to. We don't need that.
Remember, Brad has vetted that house that Lisa out of California wants to donate.
Perfect.
He said it's a viable candidate.
We are ready. So that would probably be we'll probably focus on those two houses first as soon as we finalize everything with Josh. So, Josh, you want to continue on with some other questions? I know we only have a certain amount of time today.
No, absolutely. No, it's some great stuff there. Great conversation. So let's talk about the eye openers for Veterans Path Up, and this might even be. So the question specifically for me is, what has been the biggest eye opener for you with starting Veterans Path Up, and maybe even your journey since you've been on it? So I'll just give an example for me. When I started Hope and Strength Project, which is going on right now, the realization for me was when I saw passing in downtown Chicago, passing all these homeless people on Michigan Avenue. I was out shopping with Gabby, who was my girlfriend then, now my wife. And I'm looking around at all these homeless people. I'm not doing anything about it. And then we stop at a stoplight and about to cross the street. And there was an old lady sitting next to me and had a cardboard sign. All it said was, "I just want food and warm clothes." Right. And so I look at it and I'm like, man, that's pretty reasonable, right? She's not asking for money or anything. And me and Ken have had this conversation too. And so the light turns green, and no short of probably 30 to 40 people passed by. Nobody even, blinked at her. And so we pass by her and go across the street. And I look at Gabby and say, man, why doesn't anybody help her? And then Gabby looks at me and she doesn't say it maliciously or anything. And she says, well, we didn't do anything. And for me, that was the biggest eye opener. And I'm like, holy crap, you're right. We didn't do anything. So, and then that brought me back to a time when I had a Christmas when our family was struggling because my mom had breast cancer, and we thought we were going to lose her, drown in medical bills and all that stuff. And nobody came to help us on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve or anywhere within that first couple days of Christmas. And so I'm like, man, I got to do something about this. And so that's when I started it. But for you, I know that your story is when you were with, I believe it was Wendy Sweet, if I'm not mistaken, at the Sunrisers breakfast that you guys have down there in Charlotte. That might have been an eye opener for you, but maybe outside of that, because we've heard that story before. What have been some of the biggest eye openers for you with this whole Veterans Path Up journey that you're on?
Well, I tell you what, there's a lot of different eye openers. I don't know which direction you want to go, because your story about walking down the street and seeing homeless people and wondering who's going to do something about it. I'll say one thing before I talk about something relative to homelessness and ending veteran homelessness, or ending homelessness in general. But, it's along those lines of, why isn't somebody doing something about this? Because so many people look at a nonprofit that's doing worthy things, and they'll look at Veterans Path Up and say, man, what a great organization. But if you look to your left and you look to your right and you look in front of you and you look in the mirror, usually no one has done anything with that nonprofit. Nobody's given. And the reality is, you made a post the other day that I really liked about the nonprofit that you have. And I said, you know what? I could come back to this in a day or two and donate to your organization, but I'm going to forget. I'm going to forget to do it. So I did it right then. And that's not anything other than, I'm no different from anyone else. So there's no time like the present. So if you see something and you're like, wow, I need to do something, do it right then. Don't wait, because you'll forget. Or in my case, I may be the pot calling the kettle black, but I forget. So, but you know what? To the homelessness, this isn't just veteran homelessness. There is a term, I don't know if you know this, but Virginia, Delaware, and Connecticut claim that they've ended veteran homelessness. 3 entire states have claimed that they've ended veteran homelessness. 64 communities in other states have claimed that they've ended veteran homelessness. Now, I felt compelled to, I've known this for quite a while, but I finally felt compelled to put it all into a single document with references to different communities from Illinois to Miami, and there's dozens and dozens and dozens others. And this is going to annoy anyone who's listening to this, but there's a term called functional zero. And functional zero is what these communities who claim that they've ended veteran homelessness apply to the definition of veteran homelessness. Now, I'm going to read this definition verbatimly, if I can find it. So, what is functional zero? Functional zero is reached when the number of veterans experiencing homelessness within a community is less than the average number of veterans being connected with permanent housing each month. Now, do you have any idea what I just said? So, Virginia, Delaware, Connecticut, and 64 other communities have claimed, you'll see a headline, we've ended veteran homelessness. But then you look at the fine print and that's their definition. So no city, none of these states have ended veteran homelessness. They've just applied a whacked out formula to saying that we've reached a manageable state of homelessness.
Sure.
And they specifically say that this functional zero is getting the homeless population to a manageable problem. So if you're that homeless person that's sitting in the street or laying in the gutter with that cardboard box on you, and you're in Virginia, Delaware, or Connecticut, do you like to be referred to as a manageable problem? That in itself is a problem. And that's why we're all about the solution. Right. And what is the solution? The solution is getting a veteran off the streets in stable housing, and they don't revert. Because guess what? It gets worse. If you're a veteran that's been helped off the street by 1, 2, 3, 6 months worth of subsidy from an organization that's gotten you off the street, guess what? You now don't count. They've been able to check you off as being, you've gotten them off the street. If you go back on the street, you don't count. And that goes back to this functional zero whacked out definition. And when I before I started Veterans Path Up, before we got the criteria down that we use to get a veteran into a home, these organizations that were referring veterans to me, and I see no reason, I see any landlord out there or property management company, I can see why they will not give somebody the time of day, because taking these veterans that were referred to us, that were given 1 to up to 6 months of rent subsidy, we had an 80% failure rate. So the landlords were ultimately having to evict these people because when they were on the hook to pay the rent themselves, they didn't. They didn't budget, they didn't have the education, and they were ultimately having to be evicted. And these government organizations look at a landlord, and the majority of the people out there that are landlords only have maybe 1 or 2 houses, right? And they have a mortgage or they have debt against them that they have to pay off. But these organizations look at them and say, oh, they're rich. If the person defaults, then, oh, they should just let them stay there free of charge, right? Well, that's not a solution when little mom and little pop need to pay their mortgage bill and they're letting somebody rent their property. So I get passionate about this because I stress good stewardship and holding to the non-entitlement, or, you know, teaching a person to fish and not giving them the fish, as you said earlier. So
basically, I think what you're saying, Ken, is that they're more interested in trying to be able to have a claim that they did something than to really help anybody.
I hate to say it, but that's the case. Now, there's so many wonderful caseworkers in so many of these organizations, but the reality is their hands are tied because a bigger, management has their thumb on them on what they can do. Perfect example was one of the veterans we put into a house. He was living in his truck the day before he moved into the house. And I explained to one of the managers at one of the veteran organizations what I was going to do with this veteran on educating them on the path to home ownership. And they said, that's a great idea, but we can't do it. And I said, well, why can't you do it? They said, because the VA won't let us do it. And so what we did was, they were given rent subsidy for 6 months, but we still had him pay a portion of the rent each month, stair-stepped it up to where they paid $300 the first month, the veteran paid $350 the second month, $400 the third, and on up to where then he had a credit towards a down payment on the house at the point in which that organization cut him off. And the reason I did that was, once again, 80% of the prior veterans that came in on these programs, when they're cut off after 6 months, without getting acclimated to that rent, going from not having to pay rent for 6 months to then having to pay $750 per month in rent on the first month, and then on without any classes or any budgeting, they failed. They had high failure. And just doing that one thing put a $2,500 credit for that veteran, and the day he moved into that house, he was homeless.
Interesting. We appreciate you sharing that with us. Definitely, that's something that should be made very well known. Awesome stuff. Okay, so let's move on to Ken Lacy now. So we've talked about Veterans Path Up, and we had an entire episode previously. I don't remember exactly what episode number it was, but we've had an episode in the past with Ken that went a little more detailed into Veterans Path Up and what they're doing and some of the stories that they've had with the experience of putting veterans in homes and giving them a hand up. So let's talk about Ken Lacy, because Ken, I know that you've been around a lot of very, very smart and intelligent people. One of them being me, Tom Olson. So,
You're about to say one of them being me.
So
Josh, you're smart too.
I was trying to pull a joke off there, and I think it happened, but we'll see. We'll see if people laugh. But you've been around, so you're with Financial Friends Network. You've been around Quincy and Walter, their group, our group, and then you've gotten looped in with Think Realty now, and a lot of people that know with Eddie Wilson and all that. So you've been around a lot of smart and intelligent people. When it comes to your self-development, because we actually just had a recording with DJ Savoy and Jessica Savoy, and one of the things that they said was, if you can't grow yourself personally, you can't grow yourself professionally. And I think that's extremely true. So for you, because you have Veterans Path Up, you're the executive director, it's kind of your responsibility to grow it. What are some things that you have personally done, some big key contributors to you in your self-development?
What about the contributor part?
So what are some of the biggest things that have been the contributors to your self-development? So what's helped you grow the most?
So my first experience with this amazing network did start with the Financial Friends Network, and then that turned into Good Success and other groups that are just, it's so much of it is an overlap. I guess it actually all started with getting involved with the local Real Estate Investors Association. So I believe that is the first point of entry wherever somebody may be, is go to your local RIA. But then that's sort of like a surface area. It's sort of like the person who just starts going to church. Until you start reading your Bible and digging in and possibly getting in with small groups, you don't get the real meat of it if all you do is go to church. So you go from the RIA to the more focused groups, in this particular case for me, Financial Friends Network, but then Good Success drills down to the true meat. And I tell people all the time, I may not have the answer to whatever your question in real estate is, but if you go to Good Success and a Good Success meeting, there's going to be someone there that knows the answer. And I would step out on a limb to say there isn't a question that can't be asked of the talent in the Good Success people where the answer isn't going to be there. And it won't just be an answer that is an okay way to get there. It'll be an answer and a solution that can turn into money, a lot of money. And so the network, your network is your net worth. And I mean that not just from a money standpoint, but from a personal growth standpoint too, because when you get part of a close-knit group like Good Success, or the 20, 30, 40 people at one point, you get to know them. And so you can find out what in their personal life got them to where they are in their business life as well. That's why, before just a couple of years ago, I was not much of a reader. And now I started with Tom's top 10 books from 2 years ago. And you have got to read. If you can't sit down and read a book, then you've got to do Audible. So if you're in your car or you're at the gym, you need to be listening to a book. And so my top four books are The Richest Man in Babylon, the Richest Man Who Ever Lived, which is a business plan written on the book of Proverbs. Traction is one of those books. The Go-Giver is one of those books. And Extreme Ownership is absolutely a top book. I think if you read all those 5 books and you have your high school students read those 5 books, you will have success in your personal relationship, your business relationship, your relationship with God, and you will succeed. I truly believe that. And so you've got to educate yourself.
That's a pretty stacked lineup of books. That's a really good lineup of books.
Yeah, I'll tell you, within the last year, I've read The Richest Man That Ever Lived as well, and I would definitely put that now in my top 5, maybe even my number 1. Other than the Bible itself, I would say that that's anything that James Allen writes is amazing. It goes way farther beyond than just business.
Yeah, absolutely. I concur with that. The Richest Man in Babylon, that's my number 1 favorite book, and I got that because Tom suggested it to me.
Well, there's difference. This is what I'm talking about. Is The Richest Man That Ever Lived.
I'm sorry, Richest Man Who Ever Lived. Yes,
okay.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes, by Stephen Scott. That's an incredible book. To me, it's almost like Think and Grow Rich from a biblical perspective. It brings in that element that's incredible. It's about the book of Proverbs and Solomon. So, love that book. Awesome stuff.
So that book I read, and it was sort of funny how I read it. Wendy Sweet in her Friday morning subgroup breakfast brought that book in and said, all right, who'd like to read this book? Now, she prefaced it with a little bit of background on it. So there was a bunch of hands on it. She said, you have to read it within 2 weeks and then give it to someone else in this group. And so I was about 3 down the list of committed people, but that was good that she did it that way, because otherwise it could sit in somebody's back seat for 3 months,
And I don't think that one's on Audible, is it?
Nope.
I don't think so. So you got to read the hard copy, but it's totally.
Well, I
worth
read
it.
that one, so I didn't even know if it was in Audible.
Totally worth reading that. Okay, awesome stuff. Well, we appreciate you sharing that with us.
So I think the answer to this question, though, is network and reading.
Yeah.
He kind of brought in network and making sure you're in the right group, and then also reading and for self-development.
Yeah, absolutely. So that stacked lineup of books is incredible. And then network, you mentioned network is your net worth. We've heard that several times.
Let me add one more. And I got this from Emily in that
the Scrum meeting, the airplane, paper airplane.
So I was like, so she had her 2 or 3 page white paper on it. And I said, so will this take care of me for everything I need to know about Scrum? And she's like, no, you got to read the book. And so I think Scrum is an amazing book. And if you can just take away, and I implemented this, and you can't look at it as because you implement this and somebody on your team may say, well, you're micromanaging. Well, it's not micromanaging. Traction is a great book, but it's more of a week-to-week process as opposed to a day-to-day accountability process. So simply saying, what did you accomplish since the last time we talked, i.e. yesterday? What are you going to accomplish today? And what do you need help with today if you can't accomplish this? It seems basic, but if you do that, wow, what an accountability thing with just 3 little things. It takes 15 minutes.
And it's
every
so
morning.
Simple, but for some reason it's not. It's the discipline to actually do it that makes all the difference in the world. So I look at EOS as like a very good structure. But I don't really, in my opinion, it doesn't give you the practical application. The practical application of the day-to-day is in Scrum. So Scrum is a great book as well. So
yeah, definitely.
Glad we're on books, but I think we got to move it along, Josh.
Yeah, that is definitely. Scrum is definitely a good book there. That was a lot of fun doing that paper airplane game that we did with Scrum. So I think you make that up. You said
Yep.
You created that game. So maybe you should sell that off to Scrum.
Oh. It's a good idea.
So anyway, so we're going to have to wrap this up like Tom said, but we got a couple more questions here for you. I'm not entirely sure if I remember that we asked you these questions last time we had you on the show. I think we were actually not doing that back then. But we got 2 questions that we ask every single person on the interview. Always enjoy hearing the answers, and I'm looking forward to hearing what Ken has to say here. So good success. You know us very well. You know me and Tom and the entire group. Like we've mentioned a couple times, you're in the mastermind. You came to speak at our community go-giver event, so you know everything that good success is about. So maybe not the specific group of people, but the term good success. When you hear the term good success, obviously pulled from the Bible, Joshua 1:8 talks about the quality of success. What's the first thing that comes to mind for you?
Great success. You should rename it. But no, I know it's straight from the Bible. But, I think of, because I know you guys and I know where your heart is, my first thing doesn't go straight to business. It just is a way of life. It's sort of like the go-giver. Giving isn't something you do to get, although giving in my mind does get, but it's a way of life. It's how you are, whether somebody's looking at you or not. That's what real good success is. And it's true virtue and one of my core values relative to Veterans Path Up and how you work with people. So good success to me isn't specific to business. It's a state of being.
Awesome. Love that. We're going to coin that. That's a new t-shirt. Yep. So we're gonna,
good success is a state
and
of
I didn't
being.
know you were going to ask that question. So.
That's good stuff. I like hearing the thoughts.
We
right
never
off of
tell
people.
anybody we're asking that question because we want it to kind of be a little bit off the cuff, and we just want people to know, like, what when you hear good success, what does that mean to you? Like, if it's funny because for me, when I read the Bible now, I actually look for the word good, and I'm shocked at how much it's actually in there. Like, the Bible doesn't talk about greatness that much, and when it does talk about greatness, it's only talking about God the Father. So we can't really be great. We aren't really great. The only person that in my opinion has that has the
status of
the status or that's worthy of that is God. So I feel like even God, when he created the earth, he said after the first day, he said after the morning and the evening, and God saw that it was good. And then God saw that it was good again. Everything he made, he said that it was good. And then when he created man, he said it was good again. He talked about marriage. And when he created woman, it was very good that he had them too. And he also said for man to be alone was not good. So that word good has a lot bigger meaning, I think, than just like good, better, best, or good and great, or good and bad. It has a meaning of a wholesomeness and the right kind of success. And I like the way you said, though, like doing the right thing. And that's part of what I always try to talk about is being able to put your head on the pillow every night and know that you did the absolute best you can. You did the right thing throughout the day is part of what I envision and think about when I think about good success. It's
Great
awesome
stuff. Awesome. All right. So the last thing that we got here is you got to leave the audience with one thing. So whether it's a quote, a thought, piece of advice, maybe it's a book you've read. I mean, we talked about some pretty good books here. So one thing you got to leave the audience with, what would that be?
Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God.
Man, that's
value bomb. Just dropped. Awesome stuff.
That's really good, Ken. Thank you for that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Ken, for being on the show today and sharing everything that you did. One thing that we didn't mention yet, and it's not come out into fruition yet, but Ken with Veterans Path Up is actually going to be one of our first sponsors for the Good Success podcast.
Yes. Sweet.
So that's why we got him on the show here. So we want to make sure
Nice.
we get him on the show, get you guys familiar with him and Veterans Path Up. So that's going to be starting January 1 is the first episode that's going to be sponsored.
Idea.
So
Yep.
We're excited about that. Great stuff. So Ken, we appreciate you and VPU doing that.
And if you can do one thing for the listening audience that you've got on email is forward them the Pave the Path event that's going to be here at the Ingersoll Rand corporate headquarters on April 5th and 6th. Highly recommend you coming the day before because the networking is amazing. And we got a lot of good stuff coming up for that.
So
and
how can they get that?
Yeah.
Is it veteranspathup.org?
So it's a dedicated website that's separate from our regular website. So it's VPU, stands for Veterans Path Up, VPU pavethepath.org. If you put that in your browser, you'll go straight to the page. It actually shows a little bit of the video that Nathan Alber, the videographer, did, but it also shows sponsorship abilities, registration, the speakers, and it gives you everything you need to know. And if you get registered the next few weeks, you'll save a lot on it, because this is a fundraising event, but it's still a real estate seminar with amazing talent. And I think somebody sitting behind one of those two microphones is going to be there too.
Well, you were at the last one. So
Yes,
that was great.
I'm really excited about being able to speak at the event, and if you guys are going to come, I would love to meet you guys there. So, Veterans Path Up had put on a great event last year. Are you going to do the same format as you did last year? So we kind of, the first day is kind of like, well, I guess that first night before, you're going to do a networking event, and then 2 days of real estate education, and then at the end, which I think you ought to tell people about it, because I think it's a great opportunity. If you're veterans, if you love veterans, I think it's a great opportunity to be able to have some kind of fundraising event. So at the end, are you still doing a charity auction at the end?
Yep, we'll do the charity auction.
Awesome.
So if anybody'd like to donate something, we actually had an auction one time where somebody donated a house, and the house got auctioned off. And so if somebody wants to donate a house and get a fully tax deductible contribution for it, doesn't matter what state it's in. It doesn't have to be in Indiana. It doesn't have to be in Virginia or North Carolina. But creativity is king here. So most anything that you think has value, we can auction off. But the first night was sort of an impromptu networking dinner. Everybody said, we'd like that more structured. So we'll have a specific venue, and that'll be for anybody who gets in early on the Thursday night. There will be a dinner, and the pontoon boat ride that we had last time, instead of having hors d'oeuvres and then going to a restaurant via car, we're going to pull right up to the dock of a restaurant and get off the boat, and we'll be eating there, and then we'll get back on the boat and head on out.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I can't wait.
Yeah, very cool. So you guys can go to vpupavethepath.org to sign up for that. So make sure you do. You'll see Tom there, you'll see Ken there, and a couple other people in our Good Success Network. Mm-hmm. So that'll be great. Ken, if somebody wanted to email you, get in contact with you, veterans, is it vpu.org or veteranspathup.org that they can go to the website?
Well, you can connect through the website, which would just be veteranspathup.org.
Okay.
But anybody on this call, they can shoot me an email, ken@veteranspathup.org.
Awesome stuff. All right.
And then if somebody wanted to donate to Veterans Path Up, is it VPU or is it veteranspathup.org?
It's veteranspathup.org, and you can pay through PayPal on the website, or you can send us a check to our office address.
Awesome stuff. And all that information is on the website, so make sure you guys take advantage of that. Veteranspathup.org is where you can learn more. So, Ken, thank you for being on the show today. We appreciate you. We look forward to seeing you in February at the Good Success Mastermind event in Dallas.
Perfect.
So it'll be great. So that's going to do it for today's episode. We appreciate you jumping on. If you haven't already, make sure you have subscribed to the Good Success Podcast. We're on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, all the podcast platforms. Just go search for us, search Good Success. You'll find us there. If you can leave a review, do it for us. We would love to hear your thoughts. And then the Good Success Mastermind, like I just mentioned, and we mentioned several times, Ken even did us a good favor and talked about the group a little bit. goodsuccess.com/mastermind is where you can learn more about that. Like I said, our next event is in February 4th through 8th in Dallas, Texas at Quest Trust Company's office. They're kind enough to host us there. Fill out the application, and then you'll talk to either myself or Tom, and we'll vet you through the core values that we have: community, growth, stewardship, and charity. And one more time, that is goodsuccess.com/mastermind. And then the Community Go Giver event, early bird pricing is going on right now. CommunityGoGiver.com, save a couple $100, and you'll see Ken there as well, speaking at one of our Community Go Giver spotlights. That's going to do it for today's episode. We appreciate you jumping on. Remember to be a conduit, not a bucket.
Work to have to give.
Catch you guys on the next one.